This video is sponsored by no one. Yeah, I don't have one of those yet, but if you want to sponsor me, I would love that. But anyway, this video is actually sponsored by the comment section below for actually sending me in a way too early roster recommendation to prove to everyone that I actually do these and read the comments. Today we are talking a little New Jersey and their wrestling university in Rutgers. And if you want your school broken down in a way too early fashion for next year, please send them in the comment section below. I'm already working on Michigan and Wisconsin, so those videos will be out in the upcoming weeks, don't you worry. Rutgers has really grown from rags to riches, and they're always competing with mid and top tier Big Ten teams. They're not the top of the Big Ten polls yet, but they are in a powerhouse state like New Jersey, so they are constantly growing their strong recruiting class year over year, and they constantly get under the radar New Jersey studs. Now, to all the Rutgers fans, I will say it now, I'm from Pennsylvania, so definitely not a New Jersey fanboy, but I love wrestling, and I'll always point out great wrestling, and it's hard to count out New Jersey when you're talking about great wrestling states. Also, before I really dive into this sneaky good Rutgers lineup for next season, what's going on everyone? My name is Tanner, and this is TrueTan Wrestling. I have made way too early lineup breakdowns on several teams, and there will be more to come before the start of the 2022-2023 season, like I mentioned a little earlier. Rutgers, I am ecstatic to talk about, and if you are too, be sure to hit that like button, and if you like the content while you are here, you might as well hit that subscribe button as well. Also, leave a comment on your thoughts on the Scarlet Knight lineup in the comment section below. Now let's stop wasting time and dive into the Scott Goodell young but upcoming elite squad. Goodell was one of the top New Jersey high school coaches and joined the Rutgers staff in the 2007 to 2008 season. Jeez, I'm getting old. It does not feel that long since he joined the staff. But he has grown Rutgers from a pretty below average squad into a pretty consistent All-American producing university. He gave Rutgers their first 2 national champs in 2019, and he does a pretty good job at keeping in-state talent there, which is really ideal for a state like New Jersey. To be honest, I really wanted to talk about Rutgers early in the 2022 season because they were super young, had their returning All-Americans back, and they had some super good transfers come in throughout their lineup. However, as the season got longer, it seems like they were dealing with a lot of injuries or other complications, like Alvarez struggling to make 133. However, that led to the young stud Oliveri showing off his talents. Nevertheless, the Rutgers staff got 7 guys to nationals and finished in 22nd place, with their star Sebastian Rivera placing 3rd at 141 and transfer 197 Bolsack placing 8th. The sad part about it is both of their All-Americans are out of eligibility, so they'll need to replace them. However, the good part about that is that we are finally at the start of this breakdown, so let's dive into 125 and talk about some sleeper red shirts in the Rutgers squad and the potential starters way too early before the 2023 season. At 125, the young talent really shows with their returning starter Shaver looking like the guy for now. He went 2-2 at nationals, beating some elite guys like Caleb Smith of Appalachian State and Terry Kina of Iowa State. He was the 1 seed at the Mat-Men Open, but dropped some questionable losses there, but he has wins in his career over All-American McKee, which were both in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, which is kind of a huge coincidence actually. Shaver has continued to show that he is going to get better and better throughout his years, but they had another stud in red shirt last year, and that was Dean Peterson. Peterson only wrestled at the Matttown Open 2 in Lock Haven, and his best win was probably over Julian Clevo, who at one time was the Arizona State starter. He was a top recruit in his class, so he could make this roster battle super interesting, but I would like to see more of him before I really predict him to start or do anything on the NCAA landscape. Now moving to 133, I would like to say I think it kind of worked out that Alvarez bumped up mid-season because it kind of allowed us to see Oliveri's true talents. I say it worked out not only because it was a great fill-in for the lineup, but because Heilman, the blow-up North Carolina star this year, is transferring in, and I think he will really raise his stock as a guy at 133 for Rutgers, and Oliveri can go back into redshirt since he blew it last year. Like I said on the channel before, a freshman starting in a Big Ten lineup and then going back into redshirt for his second year will do miles for development. Only catch is Heilman has at least 2 more years left, so in 2024 we might have a pretty fun roster battle. The idea of a fun roster battle in 2023 is not yet out of the picture though, with Nick Ramo, the Arizona State transfer and Fargo champ from New Jersey, is expected to be out of injury this year. Nick Ramo has a pretty limited college career count for matches, but if he lives up to his high school recruiting potential, he could be a serious threat on the Big Ten and NCAA landscape. 141, I can finally start fully talking about Alvarez, and I've been sort of hinting about him in bits and parts of this video. For starters, Alvarez had a massive breakout season in 2020 where he constantly pushed RBY and and actually beat Mickey Philippi of Pitt, on top of winning the Southern Scuffle, which is an outstanding resume in my opinion. Then in 2021, he won 3 matches, but he really started struggling with his weight and was not the guy at Big Tens, and then the same was true for the midpoint of this past season. He's clearly outgrown the weight, but I still think he could be super productive or the same amount of productivity at 141, because like I said, he has beat some All-American level guys and really pushed some All-American level guys as well. So he is definitely an elite talent for Rutgers fans to finally watch again and hopefully this upcoming season. Obviously 141 is a big hole for Rutgers because they are losing their huge transfer star and several-time All-American Sebastian Rivera, but that is a hard guy to replace, and with Alvarez spending more time on getting better and not weight cutting, I think it could help him really grow to possibly a low All-American or around a 12 guy, especially with the top dogs at the 141 weight class really clearing out for the most part. 149 is a guy I'm actually pretty excited to talk about, and I mentioned him for a little bit back in my Matman Open recap, and that is Anthony White, a redshirt freshman. The main reason I like this guy is because he wrestled a ton during his redshirt year, and he beat some pretty top tier guys. He beat Bucknose DeProm, who was right there on the cuffs of being a national qualifier, and then beat Brignola and Farber, who were both national qualifier guys this year. Plus a redshirt development I really think will help White make a huge impact within the lineup and in the 149 landscape in my opinion. Moving to 157, we see sophomore Robert Kennard, who started out really promising for the Scarlet Knights, but finished the season 11-9 and went 0-2 at Big Tens. With that said, he did get hurt in early February, so that might have played a factor in his final postseason push, and he might not have been fully healthy. His best win was probably over Tony Negron, but like I said, he is young and could be a little bit more productive for Rutgers next season. It is a similar story for the Scarlet Knights as well at 165. It is looking like the guy at that spot will once again be Andrew Clark. He is only a sophomore, so very young as well, but he had a little underproductive season going 14-19, but to be fair to him, this was his first true start in a Big Ten lineup no less, so that can happen. It's key to note that at 157 and 165 they have other options, but they're either probably going to redshirt or they're not at the level of Kennard or Clark, which is fine. I hope that both of these guys will continue to develop, and they've shown some signs of really impressive promise, so it's not a done deal for them by any means. 174 is where the interesting scale really starts to pick back up, talking about one of their former All-Americans in Jackson Turley. Turley was a shocking All-American in 2021 and seemingly came out of nowhere during his first sophomore season. He lost in the first round of NCAAs and then rattled off 4 wins in a row, beating the 6 seed McNally in the round of 12 to become an All-American, but after an injury Friday night, he would forfeit down to 8th place All-American status. Entering this season, there was some high hopes for him, but after losing to a Worthing of Clarion early in the season, there was clearly something wrong, which would turn out to be true. He would be very on and off this past season, only truly wrestling 6 times, having a 3-3 record, and after his Wisconsin loss to the previous mentioned McNally getting his revenge, he would announce his plan to get surgery and his brutal injury to unfortunately end his season. I really hope Turley can come back healthy and recovered for this upcoming season because he could be a big hitter and All-American threat for the Scarlet Knights. However, at 174, Rutgers also has a national qualifier in O'Neal, who might have been a little underproductive during the season, but going into the postseason, he had some really nice wins and became a national qualifier at 174, which is super promising, and that can create a roster battle for both 174 options and elevate them both hopefully to a new level of wrestling. Another option brewing in my head, I'm not sure how big O'Neal is, but he could possibly drop down to 165, and then they could have more national qualifiers in their lineup. But like I said, I don't really encourage cutting a massive amount of weight, so who knows how big O'Neal really is. Plus, Andrew Clark, like I said, could be a development option that is also really well. Similar to Turley entering this past year at 184, Poznansky was for sure a top dog for Rutgers in the beginning of the year. He was a stud in 2021 as only a true freshman, placing 4th at NCAAs and 3rd at Big Tens. However, this past season, he entered into the season looking super strong, going on a nice winning streak. However, after losing to Brooks pretty convincingly and then getting pinned by Malchinsky of Michigan State, he never really seemed able to rebound, and the long Big Ten schedule and plus already being scouted pretty heavily since he was a returning All-American, I think really played an effect on him. He would go 0-2 at Big Tens, but luckily they took a ton of guys from the Big Ten at 184, so after placing 9th, he would seal another ticket to Nationals, but go 2-2 for the Scarlet Knights, unfortunately. I think maybe there was a small injury that kept him from performing like he did his first year, but also like I said, the Big Ten schedule is brutal and can really beat up some guys that aren't used to it. And also, like I mentioned earlier, he was probably way more scouted this season, so that can also play a factor. year. And we also have to remember this was his first true college season. His first season was just a few matches. I also wonder, since their team is so young, maybe redshirting Poznanski, since he already had 1 year to wrestle, and they have Bill Janzer in the wing, who had a ton of success at 184, not so much at 197, but if Bill Janzer comes back down and they redshirt Poznanski, I wouldn't really argue with that lineup either. At 197, we will probably see Kyle Epperly or Bill Janzer if he comes back up again, who was behind Clarion transfer and Rutgers All-American Greg Bolsack last season. He only went 5-7 during his redshirt freshman year, but can still develop, and I am sure being behind an All-American and several-time All-American level big guys will help him improve this offseason and elevate this lineup. Now we reach our big boys at heavyweight, which in my opinion has a few starting options that will make a fun roster battle eventually in the season. The guy coming into the season will more than likely be McDermott, who went 15-12 last year, not reaching nationals, but heavyweight was super tough in the Big Ten, so not a bad resume or record at all. He was a transfer from Iowa Central Community College, and they are known to produce some pretty strong transfers to D1. There's also some tough redshirts coming into their second year at college, like O'Donnell and Hamilton. Hamilton was one of the best recruits in his class, and especially at heavyweight. He only wrestled a limited schedule considering he played football, so we might not see him till the second half of this season either, unless he chooses one or the other. But regardless, I still think he can make some noise and is definitely a young stud to look out for. And just like that, we have a way too early Rutgers breakdown in the books, all thanks to my sponsor. Nope, still don't have one of those actually. But speaking back on Rutgers for a little bit, I think they are a super promising team, which I know sounds surprising for a team losing 2 All-Americans. However, I am sure you all noticed something, that this team is super young, and they all have wins that make this team super promising and exciting to watch develop. Technically, the oldest guys they have are a couple junior starters, and then most of their weights have super strong redshirts and young guys that have done something to really make this team interesting. I think as of now, Rutgers is going to perform about the same in their dual portion of the schedule, which is actually pretty good if you look at their results from last year. However, they have a couple guys that could really shock the NCAA landscape. If you want more detail on these guys, or if I forgot to mention something about the Rutgers lineup that you wanted me to talk about, feel free to send me a comment in the comment section below, along with hitting those like and subscribe buttons. If you want your team looked at, feel free to send me a comment as well, and I'll add it to the schedule. Now I wish you all a great day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.